Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexalex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with some gameplay for Magnet Warrior. I'm playing a Fiendsmith variant, which is pretty similar to the pure variant I showed off in yesterday's combo guide. Link is going to be down below. Now here we're going to open with a hand where we can actually normal summon Quacky Mirror Guardian before activating Magnet Bonding. Ends up being a great choice because our opponent's going to have an Ash Blossom, and we can simply use the Quacky Mirror Guardian to negate. We're playing against Hero here, by the way. I got a couple of games of us going first and showing us establishing boards with this deck. Now, one variant I've seen that's been quite popular for Magnet Warrior is the Adamantipator build with Block Dragon. To be clear, we're not doing that here. This is, again, pretty similar to a pure build and how it plays and combos, with the addition of a Fiendsmith engine for a little bit of variety. I'm not opposed to trying Block Dragon in this deck. In fact, I think next week at some point, I'll likely post a video covering that variant. But my initial thought is that this more kind of like low to the ground, more pure, or similar to pure variant, is going to be optimal to play into just a format with a lot of hand traps and turn zero plays like this one, right? You know, we could always be going for like Baron de Fleur and other big synchro monsters off the Adamantipator plays, but it plays a lot more into hand traps. It's always kind of the big difference between, you know, a simple 40 card build and a like above 40, sometimes even 60 card build. Anyway. Here we're able to establish the Quacky Mirror Guardian back on board yet again, thanks to our Cross Sheep. So even though we use it to stop the Ash Blossom, we are still able to keep it on the field going into the opponent's turn. Now here, I did lose my Omega Plus. It got banished, here it is, because of the fact that I didn't overlay it for the Gallant Granite. Yeah, that's a pretty frequent misplay I make during sequencing, even did it during the combo guide. But it's not the biggest deal in the world, because at the end of the day, you're more likely to revive the Quacky Mirror Guardian off the Cross Sheep anyway, and here with this combo line, we're not going to keep the Cross Sheep on board, so it likely doesn't really matter for us here. It could in a grind game, though. Again, it's more optimal, definitely, to use the Omega Plus as an overlay material for the Gallant Granite. Okay. We're just wrapping up the combo line here by pivoting into Fiendsmith, adding the Caesar to our end board. Could have put Desiree in the extra deck if you wanted to as well. There is definitely some space. We'll cover the build here at the end of the video, but definitely not a bad setup that we've got here going into the opponent's turn. As you can see, the plus-minus we added back off the Omega Plus is what we revealed for the Guardian. So now we have 2 summon negates, IP into SP is 2 banishes. We have a monster negate and destroy, and then Telursion. Even though our opponent's monsters aren't Earth, it can still destroy an opponent's monster when a card or effect is activated. So even without the Plasma Magnum on the field, I really like having Telursion as part of our end board. Alright, opponent's going to take their turn and then immediately concede. So yeah, this first duel was really just an example of showing the kind of end boards and how you can expect a lot of turn 1 hands to play out. And like I said, it might not be as big or flashy as adding Block Dragon off the Gallant Granite and then summoning it and then adding a bunch of Adamantipator monsters. I still think it gets the job done, and it, again, plays a lot better, I feel, into the hand traps and turn 0 plays of the current meta. But let's take a look at our next duel. Now for this one, we're going to be up against Ice Barrier, which is actually a deck that's really going to be affected by the Plasma Magnum effect. Remember that Plasma Magnum can act as a sort of floodgate effect in a lot of scenarios, particularly against decks that really care about having a specific kind of attribute. This hand is also a great example of kind of why I love the Engraver so much and the Fiendsmith engine in general. It's a really good opportunity to bait out some hand traps, although I will say that the Spooky Dogwood is not a hand trap I expected to see. Now, for every monster I special summon for the remainder of the turn, our opponent's going to gain life points equal to its attack points. And as you can tell for a long combo line, that's going to result in our opponent gaining a lot of life points. So even though I have the Magnet Bonding in hand, for this game, I'm actually just going to do Fiendsmith stuff. I love seeing my opponent throw out an Imperm here. Definitely solidifies my decision to keep comboing, because now my opponent is basically just confirming that they only have so many resources to work with, right? They're only going to have 4 cards after they draw for a turn. meaning that if I have Caesar's 2 summon negates and an SP Little Knight, which I can get through this Fiendsmith line, on top of Duel and Ash Blossom, they're very likely not going to be able to do anything here. Now again, I could activate Magnet Bonding and go full combo, but that would result in them gaining a lot more life points than I'm giving them here. Even just going for Caesar plus SP, I'm going to more than double my opponent's life points. They're going to sit, I believe, around 20,000. Yeah, once we're all said and done here. They're at exactly 20,000 right now. And of course, the SP Little Knight will give them another 1,500. So 21,500. That's more than I'm able to OTK for, even with the best of my boards. However, I'm not super worried here. For one, the Revealer of the Ice Bearer is going to be forced to battle over the SP Little Knight, meaning that I am now guaranteed to get another turn, right? I'm going to let them special summon the Speaker of the Ice Bearer. Don't care about that. The General Wayne has the ability to search out a spell or a trap card, so I want to keep them off of those and tuners as well. My opponent's not even going to try to activate Revealer. No way I can simply use Caesar to negate and destroy. Electromagnet Beta is going to be my top deck, and that's going to find more plays. But as I was saying, I don't really need to OTK my opponent this turn, because once I take care of their monsters, they're only going to have 1 card in hand left, 2 cards once they draw for turn, and I'm going to not only have my Caesar, which still has a negate, the Plasma Magnum, which turns all their stuff to Earth, and all of their Synchro monsters, or at least most of them, require them to use water monsters. But on top of that, I'm going to put up so many other forms of disruption that any plays they would have are going to be a moot point. And don't forget, we still have Duel and Ash Blossom in our hand. We still got this Magnet Induction as well. We're not even going to end up needing that at all for this game. Yeah, I got to revive to Lucian. I can revive the Fiendsmith Engraver. And I figure this is about as much damage as I'm going to get on board. So we're going to battle here. Engraver over Revealer, Gallant Granite over Speaker, and then I can swing in with all of my big monsters. Now, again, in an average circumstance, this would definitely be an OTK by this point. But, despite the fact that we inflicted about 10,000 points of damage there, our opponent still has well over 11,000 life points left. So I'm going to link into IP, we can summon the Supplier, go for Quacky Mirror Guardian, and I'm just going to end up passing here, really. Like I said, our opponent's got a 2-card hand. Plasma Magnum's turning everything into Earth. Caesar's got a Summon Negate. To Lucian has a Destroy. And then IP, of course, can still activate here as well. We're going to draw and Lockbird them here. They're going to go for the Revealer, activate Speaker, banish to get a token. Don't care at all about that. When they go to activate Revealer, that is when I'm going to use Caesar. And we know the last card in their hand is Mirror Mage, and they've already used their normal summon, I believe, for that Revealer, right? So that should be lethal. And they are going to concede right there. So a little bit more of a grind game, but even though we faced an unexpected hand trap that resulted in our opponent having over 20,000 life points, that was still not a difficult win at all there. Got a couple more games to show you. Let's go into the next one. Alright, for this duel, we're actually going to be going second this time, and we're up against Fiendsmith Live Twin. This is definitely another matchup where Plasma Magnum could come in handy. A bit of a spoiler alert there, but anyway. Like I said before, we're going second. We've got the Nibiru here, which is nice, given that we're against Live Twin. One of the few decks, actually, feels like right now, where Nibiru alone can actually pose a threat. So many decks have anti-Nibiru lines nowadays, or set up a mid-combo negate otherwise, but this opponent here is going to throw out an IP Masquerade before going into their twin combo, so my Nib is going to be live really early, but I want them to expend as many resources as possible. So I'm going to let them activate the Leela Suite, revive, and go for their Evil Twins. Let them use both their Evil Twin effects. Even if I Nib them here, I don't think it's the most likely they would have an extender that could let them continue to play. But again, there's kind of no reason not to make them expend all their resources here. Because in a grind game, it means they'll have less follow-up as well. They do get to draw a card here, which debatably, if I had Nibiru'd sooner, you know, they wouldn't have a card, which could be a hand trap or a back row. But we're going to let them go for the Trouble Sunny and then activate to revive. Now, honestly, I should have Nibiru'd here. This is going to be a misplay on my part. I just kind of wasn't paying attention and toggling off. I'm going to let them go into the Abawaku after having already put the Trouble Sunny in the graveyard. So now that the Abawaku is in play, I've got to let it resolve. They will end up discarding a card, so they're back down to 3, but obviously giving them that draw earlier wasn't ideal. They'll set a card, we'll go for Nib, and it's more than just a draw. They will get to have Abawaku on their end board as well. They're going to end up triple attacking though, which kind of makes me glad that I didn't Nib earlier in hindsight. Now granted, it was still correct to have nibbed earlier, but with the triple attack, at the very least, the same thing would have happened, or they might have drawn to and found even more plays. Now here we threaten to go to battle phase. It's not something that's apparent in a replay, but by clicking battle phase here, and going to the end of my main phase, we basically force our opponent to activate the Abawaku, because otherwise the alternative is I just crash Nibiru into it, and they only have the Nib token in the back row. Now they use Abawaku to revive Trouble Sunny, which are going to activate right away. So this is going to be like 90% of the interaction my opponent's got for this turn, right up front, without even me having made a single play yet, which is definitely ideal. They still have this face down card to worry about, and whatever card they draw here as well. We're going to go for the Sigma minus effect, fusing with the Omega plus to make the Plasma Magnum. Alright, now they're going to activate both the Kisakeel and the Leela. And they have an Imperm for the Plasma Magnum as well. Certainly not ideal. But alright, they're going to draw. Plasma Magnum gets negated. We can normal summon Electromagnet Beta. That's going to add Sigma plus here. They're going to try to draw off the Kisakeel Frost. I'm actually going to use Ash Blossom against it. That looks really weird, but in this scenario, I don't want them to find a live hand trap, and I really want to be able to clear up their board here. So I think it's important to make sure they don't get that draw. But the reason I added Sigma Plus was to pop it with Omega Plus and then revive. Now Sigma Minus can be summoned to dump Telursion, and then we can overlay into the Gallant Granite. We're going to activate Gallant Granite here. I will admit that for scenarios like this, I actually would not mind being able to Gallant Granite for a Block Dragon playing into a board. I feel like having more options in that regard would be pretty nice. But at the same time, I don't feel like it's really cost me any games in testing so far. That said, you know, as I mentioned before, I do plan on testing, you know, the Block Dragon Adamantipator variant of this deck at some point in the very near future. Okay, we're going to go for the Fiendsmith stuff. Requiem for Lacrima, dump Engraver. Engraver gets to revive. Now we can go equip Requiem. We're going to get rid of the Nibiru token here, because it's in defense mode and is, you know, stopping us from dealing lethal, or as much damage. But we were going to go for lethal this turn. It's actually not going to be that hard to find. We can just sequence for the Fiendsmith's Requiem, or the Lacrima, rather. And then Lacrima revives Engraver in attack mode. And even without the attack drop, we had more than enough, but yeah, we definitely can. Yeah, 12,000. It's very easy here. All they have left is Leela Treat to lower our attack points very slightly, but yeah, definitely does not matter at all here. And there we have it. I actually misremembered. I thought for some reason that Plasma Magnum making their stuff Earth instead of Light Fiend for anti-Fiendsmith plays, I thought that mattered in this game, but I must be thinking of a different game. Anyway, let's see. That is going to do it. I think that's all the replays I've got for now. Let me show you the deck list, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. Okay, so here is my list for Fiendsmith Magnet Warrior. As you can see, it's 40 cards exactly. As I mentioned at the top of the video, if I was playing a build with Block Dragon and Adamanticators, which I've seen as probably the most popular way to play this deck so far, then I would probably be going over 40. But again, that's a deck list for another time. For this list, I really like the fact that we are able to stay so consistent at 40 cards. We have a decent amount of room for hand traps here, some pretty powerful ones with the Molcharmies. Has definitely helped with a lot of going second games. I wanted to show more going second gameplay, but I'll be honest, a lot of my going second games were just opening like Molcharmies and or Droll and just winning with those. They would often concede before I even took my turn, or just as soon as I threw out an Engraver or something. It's also really nice just to be able to throw out Engraver before you have to commit to your Magnet Warrior plays. Definitely baits a lot of hand traps there. That's kind of another thing that I like about the Fiendsmith engine over something like Block Dragon Adamantipator, right? Like, unless you open the Block Dragon, you're always going to be searching it off of the Gallant Granite, right? Whereas, like, yeah, it's the same can be said for Moon of the Closed Heaven later in the combo line, but we have so many different ways to pivot into Fiendsmith before going to Magnet Warrior with the 5 different Fiendsmith cards in the main deck, as opposed to only up to 3 Block Dragon. And even if you open Block Dragon, you still have to banish the Earth monsters out of the graveyard, which means you have to set up plays in order to make the one in hand alive. So, again, that's kind of the reason why I'm a little bit more up on Fiendsmith and even a pure Magnet Warrior build, as opposed to relying on the big, long Wombo combo. But I've never been one to deny such a thing, especially if it means, throwing in more engines. So, like I said, we'll give it a shot here in the near future. Yeah, I would say the main difference between this and the deck list that I showed in the combo guide, that like pure Magnet Warrior deck, is that we're basically taking out some off-engine, like Hand Traps, and I think also Triple Tack I was playing in the other build is gone here, to make room for the Fiendsmith cards in the main deck. In the extra deck, it's still pretty wide open, actually. The pure Magnet Warrior extra deck has so much room in it. And this one actually has a fair bit as well. You could definitely drop, like, Light Dragon at Ignister isn't required, Typhon isn't needed, Underworld Goddess is definitely not needed. That's 3 flex spots right there. Even Exciton, while I think a little bit more powerful than some of the other options I mentioned, is still definitely not needed. It's also worth noting that Exciton and Underworld Goddess are both Light Fiends, which is also why I kind of lean into having them in the Fiendsmith build in particular. Okay, I think that covers pretty much everything I wanted to talk about as far as this particular version of the build. With Magnet Warrior, one of the things I really love about this deck and this engine is that there's so many different ways you can play it. I've talked a lot about both this, obviously the Fiendsmith stuff, as well as Block Dragon Adamantipator. However, there are, you could do Mitsurugi by making King of the Fair Limps, you could do Snake Eye by making Banshee, you could go into Auroradon combo lines if you really wanted to. We play 2 level 7s in our combo line that can make a Tomahawk, although I don't know why you would need more bodies than this engine already spits out. It's just kind of wild that we live in a world where a deck like Magnet Warrior has like kind of power crept both Auroradon and Block Dragon, if you think about it. 2 cards still banned in the TCG, although I really don't think they need to be, and 2 cards which were very feared in the very recent, well, within the last 5 years, feared in the recent past, right? But now, again, a deck like Magnet Warrior can inherently spit out so many bodies with its own combo line that you don't inherently need Block Dragon for the deck to be good. And also, you are producing enough bodies that even adding Galaxy Tomahawk into Auroradon really doesn't change, like, as far as the number of interactions on your end board, doesn't greatly change what you're able to do. What it does change is it adds a lot of bricks to your main deck and will fill up most of your extra decks. So, again, it's just kind of wild to think about where Yu-Gi-Oh's at in 2026 as opposed to even a few years ago. But anyway, I think that's pretty much all I have to say for now. So, for real this time, I promise. So, this is Hexlex. I'm about to sign out, but before we do, let's thank our YouTube members and our Patreon subscribers in our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.